If you don't have oxygen, you can't generate energy. So I was looking at hyperbaric and EWOT. And then, as I said, bought your unit. I have done hyperbaric and EWOT numerous times. So a first contrast I'll make is the problem with hyperbaric is I sleep in them. I mean, I fall asleep. I get in there and 10 minutes later, I'm asleep. So my heart rate in there is 63, 64, right? So I have the least amount of blood flow possible. So though it's increasing the oxygen pressure and I have more dissolved oxygen, I also have the least amount of exercise and least amount of heart rate. My challenge with EWOT, and anybody who does it and uses your adaptive contrast will very quickly notice this difference, is that when I'm using a LiveO2 machine and I can do 45 seconds exercising at low oxygen, and then I take 3 breaths of high oxygen, it takes me 20 or 30 seconds to wear off that high oxygen. So if just in that example, if I'm breathing only 80% oxygen like EWOT, my body very quickly reaches a saturation point. So you can feel the fact that your body's reached a saturation point and then it levels off and it can't do anything. What I find is powerful, and I believe is the entire science of what you're doing is that there's a contrast between breathing low oxygen, say 14%, and then breathing high oxygen, 80%. So I go hypoxic, being I'm depleted of oxygen. My body responds because it says, now I want the most amount of oxygen possible. And when I'm in that physiological state, you switch to 80% oxygen.
If I can, I'd like to insert something for the audience. So, what we see is people that end up with oxygen-only systems end up really bored with them within a couple of weeks. Okay, they do get a benefit or an advantage, but, the principle here is they get about half or a third the results that we get with the adaptive contrast. But what Per is saying in terms of the switching back and forth, creating the challenge and the hunger really enables the oxygen to have more effect when you switch back, for it. And, for people that are considering EWOT or oxygen only training systems, the point is your body gets bored really fast and you saturate. And then the other thing, and I'll ask Per to comment on this, is that, we've tried many times to use oxygen-only systems to implement our brain protocol. And without the ability to starve the body and the brain, we can't really establish the blood flow circuit to the brain. We need the hypoxia, low oxygen air to create the challenge, which forces or compels the body into that circuit. Per, if you would please comment on that.
I agree. There's a big difference that I physically feel when I'm using any of these 3 systems. And at the end of the day, the human body has to have some challenge placed on it in order for it to respond. So if you're just using EWOT, even hyperbaric, you sleep or you don't really do anything. So that it's I think that's its inherent limitation. Like I almost do push-ups. I have a friend who has a 2-person hard-sided hyperbaric, and I've considered doing push-ups in there trying to have a heart rate, like trying to have some sort of upregulation. So to me, the idea is I have to challenge my body in some way to get a different physical response, right? So how I'm sitting right now is not how I'm going to heal myself. So if I just took my oxygen concentrator and started breathing 8% oxygen, it might help me slightly, but not very much. So I have to challenge my body in some way. One is exercise, but exercise is reducing the oxygen you have available. So if you exercise and breathe less oxygen, you've placed your body under a challenge, which your body then can respond to. So it responds by trying to say, I need all the oxygen I possibly can get. Well, then I switch and I give it 80% oxygen. So I get this big change, and you can feel it. Once you get used to exercise, and maybe you haven't exercised, it takes you a month or 2. Once you do it, you breathe a couple breaths of oxygen, you actually feel the difference in your body, and you get in this, I have to like burn it off. I don't know what the medical term is, but when I'm switching between the 2, there's this 20 or 30 seconds where it feels like I'm not exercising. It's like almost so easy. I have to burn that off before I feel like I'm challenging my body again.